Hello and welcome everyone to Live at the Waterhole. It is wonderful to be back here with you. My name is Amy and I'll be with you for the show today and the next few days coming up as well. So wonderful to be back, and we're starting off here at the beautiful Tau Game Lodge in Madikwe. Now, of course, as always, this is a live and interactive show, so I would love to hear from you all. Tell me, how are you all doing? And if there's anything you're hoping to see today, let me know any comments and questions that you may have. Also, where you're joining us from all over the world. And it's wonderful to be able to chat with you all. It's been a while since I've been here, but it is good to be back and enjoy these waterholes with you all. Now, you can send through those comments and questions in a variety of different ways on the WildEarth app, on the website if you're registered. Otherwise, you can pop them into the YouTube chat stream using @FC. Otherwise, you can join the conversation on X using the hashtag WildEarth. Now, it looks like there are some waterbuck here at Tau, a male and a female. The male's just on the left-hand side. He's got the big set of horns on top of his head. And they found some delicious green grass, also a favorite of some of the elephants here at Madikwe. All right, well, it's looking very much like clear skies and warm weather here at Madikwe, but how about we go have a look at what the weather is doing across all our locations. Well, all around pretty sunny and warm, and for me personally, this is one of my favorite times of the entire year, especially in the low-veld Greater Kruger region. We have these sort of warm days, but it takes a while to warm up, so we have lovely cool mornings and evenings. Very little wind and very consistent weather every single day, which is wonderful. I'm also very happy to see that there is still water here at Tau. Honestly, I was wondering, it was getting very low at a particular time, be on my last sort of last time here at Live at the Waterhole, which I think was in March. Jenna, you say hello from the UK. Amy, nice to have you on Live at the Waterhole. It is fantastic to be here, Jenna. And Joanne, you say a new week with new adventures. Let's explore WildEarth. Often out here in the bush, we even forget what day it is. So I'm glad I now know it's a Monday. The days seem to roll one into the next. But indeed, a new week, new adventures, new sightings to be had. So always something to look forward to, even if it is on the Waterhole show. Mercedes, you're also looking forward to what the day has in store. And it's true, from the live drives to time at the Waterhole, there's always something new to be seen and the possibility of something very exciting happening. I also have heard that there are a few new camera locations that have been added, so I'm not sure exactly where we're all going to go today, but that is very cool to know that there are a few more spots for us to take a look at. Oh, so quite a few waterbuck around. It's quite a large male, quite close to the camera there. And I think this is the family of Egyptian geese that are still around. I know there are a few red-billed teals that we've seen as well, black crakes. So it's good to know the birds are still around here at Tau. But I also find it fascinating how quickly the landscape has changed here, everyone. There was a time, I think around January, where this was all just green, and very quickly as the rains have come and gone, so it's turned back to bare soil. And Madikwe is in sort of a transitional area between savanna and desert-like areas. So it is quite dry, it gets very, very hot. And it's an interesting vegetation type and actual ecozone that Madikwe houses. And you've got this contrast between very, very lush times in the summer, which goes very quickly into very arid times throughout winter. Well, it's been lovely to start off this afternoon here at Tau, but let's head over to Kamfers Dam and see what's happening over there. Well, the beautiful scene here in Kimberley. We've got some red Hartebeest there in the background for the most part, I think. And then some birds as usual in the water. Definitely red-knobbed coots and a few flamingos around as well. well, a beautiful scene here with I've actually seen a few antelope further back. I think those are some springbuck, but we've also seen blesbuck here before, some wildebeest. So there you can see those red hartebeest, and I always remember them that's what they are because of the shape of their horns. So in this particular species, both the males and females have horns, and they actually create a heart-like shape on top of the head. Looks like this one on the furthest left actually has a kink in its horn, that it's slightly going askew, the very tip of it. Almost pointing backwards rather than straight up. Canine Girl, lovely to hear from you. You say, great to be with you again, Amy. Looking forward to some great sightings as always. Andrew, you'd like to know if these antelope are found all over South Africa, and no, they're not. They're not a species that we get in the Greater Kruger or the Lowveld area. Generally, we find them more toward the western side of the country. A little bit drier habitats is what they are best suited to or naturally found in. So Kimberley is in the Northern Cape, very close, sort of in the central western part of South Africa, and you also find them in the Karoo, which is also a drier area of South Africa, and into the Western Cape. So definitely not everywhere, Andrew, not at all. Well, wonderful to pop in here at Kamfers Dam, but let's head up to Kenya and see what's happening at Donyo. Sure, as always, just the most pretty landscape views here at Donyo. And there is a giraffe that hopefully we'll be able to see come down to drink. Oh, a few steps closer. I'm sure he can smell the water. Cannot wait to get there. Oh no. Something put him off. That is very interesting now that he's moving off. Look, he may have drunk already. I obviously didn't see that if he had. But perhaps something else is arriving. That also tends to happen sometimes. So far, not much other than that one impala. Shiv, good to hear from you. And, I'm not sure if we're going to see all the things that you're hoping to see today, leopards, lions, and a bark spider. But that would be quite the show. But we can talk about them and hopefully learn a little bit about them as we go. I would love to see another bark spider. For anyone who maybe didn't join that particular day on the sunrise safari, we managed to find a bark spider that took down its web live, which was amazing. Particularly with bark spiders, they are one species that will create their web for the night and then the next day actually eat it again to take in those nutrients back into their bodies. And we got to see the entire web get taken down in a matter of minutes. It was incredible. One of the highlights from my last stint at Juma. Catherine, you saying hi from a warm and sunny Germany. Well, very warm welcome to you, Catherine. Thanks for saying hi. Oh, there are a few birds that have arrived now. Interesting looking one in the middle there, quite light in color, and I think a few doves as well. Kim, you are asking about distinguishing between red hartebeest and topi or topi, which I found up here in Kenya. And the distribution is the biggest thing, Kim. So red hartebeest is something that we find down in South Africa. We don't find topi or topi further down south. They're an East African animal that's found here in Kenya. And also actually more similar, I think, to the sesame. Hartebeest do look somewhat similar. Their horns are slightly different, the coloration, that sort of thing. I find that topi and sesame are more similar for me. Ray, thanks for sending that through. You say that was an amazing sighting with the bark spider. I'm so glad you remember it. Yeah, absolutely blown away by being able to witness that live with you all on that particular sunrise safari. Now this impala is very impressive. It's of course a male with the horns on top of its head, but I find quite a big difference for me, although they both are impalas, the ones we find in South Africa and the ones we find up in Kenya. The horns on the males of these impalas in Kenya and East Africa are just massive. I think they have huge horns. It's definitely something genetic about the East African impalas. But their horns do seem a lot larger and wider spread than the ones in South Africa. Ray, hi again. Thanks so much for your comment about the impala. You say that that coat seems to be a little bit darker as well. Indeed, it is. They almost seem like they're more tanned. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the equatorial sunshine that makes them a little bit darker. But I'm sure it's also just down to genetics. But even in South Africa now, being on Juma for quite a while, I did notice sometimes there's one or two that just seem to be a lot more orange, a deeper hue of orange than others. He's busy horning some grass now at the moment. Alright, well, been wonderful here in Kenya for a bit. I'm sure we might be back a bit later, but for now, let's head back over to Kamfers Dam. Ah, there are the springback, everyone. I thought I spotted them. And you can see now the difference, the clear difference between a springback and an impala. Other than generally the habitats not overlapping, springback are found in much drier areas, whereas impalas found more towards the eastern side of the country and a little bit more. They can't survive in such harsh conditions, whereas the springback can. And generally, antelopes that you associate, to seeing together are generally reserves that have springback. Will also have red hartebeest. Will also have blesbok. Will also possibly have some gemsbok or oryx, as they're otherwise known. So generally, you can group those together. Then on the other hand, you've got impala, you will have kudu and some of the smaller antelopes as well, nyalas as well, bushback, then things like as well eland, roan and sable. But although eland you can also find where there are gemsbok and springback as well. I think of a national park in South Africa called Mountain Zebra, one of my favorite smaller game reserves in South Africa, highly recommended by me personally. Something very, very different, but a special place, and where you can see things like springback, eland, red hartebeest, those sort of things all together. And of course gemsbok. So, an interesting question by Billy Judd, which is, are geronooks or geronooks, depending on how you want to pronounce that word, also known as the giraffe gazelle, which I much prefer to use, are found up in East Africa. And you want to know if they are related to impala at all? No, they are not. Other than being an antelope species, they are not related in any sort of way to impalas. They actually form part of the gazelle family and are more closely related to what we're looking at right now, Billy, which are springbuck. Sandy, hello. It's lovely to hear from you as well. You say good morning, Amy. So nice to hear your voice today. It's good to be here, everyone. It's wonderful to be back on the show. And I'm looking forward to spending a few more shows with you all before the end of the month. Victor, you'd like to know if all antelope species run and walk in the same manner. That is such an interesting question. And I suppose in general, yes, they've all got 4 legs, which they move with. And I suppose generally it's the same movement that they're undertaking. But they all do look very different from each other, especially if you're looking at size differences and different that they may, be able to go faster or slower. Some look more clumsy than others. Some are a lot faster than others. If you think about the Thompson's gazelle, nearly going as fast as 100 kilometers per hour in comparison to other antelopes that are a lot slower than that, a lot larger, but possibly slower. Kudus look a bit clumsy. I think they can be very quick, but they're a lot larger. Even elands, Gemsbok, very actually graceful as they go in their groups along the open plains. And then also you've got things like stotting versus pronking. So springbuck in particular do a certain type of jumping called pronking, unique to them, where they exercise their agility to show predators that they are, flexible and, well, maybe not flexible, but agile to be able to run away from them. Whereas things like impalas would do something called stotting. It's also a form of leaping, but it's not exactly the same thing. So in that way, Victor, they are different from one another in running. But for the most part, they are all doing the same thing, and they would have the general appearance of the same motion. The same goal is being achieved through their movement. Bobby McGee, hi, you say your 9-year-old daughter has asked, how do you take the pictures from so close in different places at the same time? Well, Bobby's daughter, it's really is amazing what technology can do. And basically what happens is that there are different cameras in different places all over Africa that we can access through sort of, I suppose, the internet in a way. And we're able to get that those pictures from those different cameras, and then we're also able to control the cameras, and that's how we can get really nice and close. We can zoom in through controlling the camera and get to close up on things that we want to look at. And so we can do that live, which means in the moment. So now I could ask Zulu to zoom on the antelope on the right, for example, and we do that. So if we wanted to look at a particular bird or something like that, then we could have a look at Bobby's daughter. But it is fascinating, and it is all to do with technology. So we're not physically in all these locations, but there are cameras around that we're able to access and then get what we call their feeds and share that with you at home. I see some gemsbok in the background. That's lovely. I don't think I've actually seen a gemsbok at Kamfers Dam before, but again, that association between red hartebeest, springbok and gemsbok in one area, generally those are species that you do see in similar habitats. Sarah, absolutely wonderful to see some different antelope species and that they've come out. We don't always see them here at Kamfers Dam. Usually we see a lot of flamingos and red-knobbed coots, sometimes Egyptian geese as well, but it looks like a whole herd of gemsbok are arriving at the moment. Ooh, something gave those Hartebeest a fright. Could even just have been a bird. What a wonderful scene. This is just fantastic. You can see the young Hartebeest, the ones that are just probably about a year or so old. Their horns are coming straight out their heads, and I always think that they look very, very funny. Very long faces, and then these horns sort of pop straight up out of their heads. You can see one walking now closest to the water. How fantastic to see all those camps will come out, everyone. We are going to head over and see what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal at Tembe. Oh, how beautiful. A big elephant bull, my first elephant for the day and since being back on the show. What beautiful tusks. It still is very green here, although I have seen that the grass has withered a bit. It's a lot flatter. And also these sort of mud wallows where the elephants were doing a lot of their splashing and lying in the mud and that sort of thing also seem to be drying out. Oh, how lovely that he's walking towards us. Those tusks are just really impressive. Oh wow, there are a few more bulls as well in the background there. You can see there is a bit of water around as well. And then obviously notice there he is displaying his penis, and now that I know that there are other bulls around, it makes more sense to me, because that's often sometimes just a bit of a dominance display. It can also be for cooling, and there's a lot of blood vessels and things that are within the penis and the penile sheath, and the once out, there's a lot of cool breeze that can then also help with the cooling of the elephant. But it does make sense for him to display somewhat like that in the presence of other bulls. And there's the one coming now for a drink. And I think there's also some warthogs there, yes, in the background, feeding. Diane, so good to hear from you. You say, hi, Amy. We will miss you on the drives, but nice to hear your voice today. Hope we see lots of exciting things. Me as well, and so far, so good. It has been a wonderful start for the first hour of the show. I'm heading into the second hour. Who knows? But as long as we've got some elephants, some warthogs, there's impalas, and a variety of different locations to share with you, sure we will always find something to show you and chat about. I was just taking a moment to take in the scene here. I'm enjoying those impalas walking past slowly. There's also actually a grey heron just in front of the water on the left that I see has come out a little bit further. Tembe always has such a variety of species and animals around. There's also often actually seen nyalas or even a bushbuck around. But Spas, you asking what is the rarest animal to observe at Tembe? Spas, I'm not 100% certain on that, but I would assume that it's very similar to other reserves like it in the area and within the eastern region of South Africa, which would be something like a pangolin or warthog to actually observe. Very, very rare to do so. You could even look at some rarer birds that have been seen in the area, maybe something like a southern banded snake eagle. I know is extremely special to see. This elephant's deciding to rest its trunk. I think it's actually on the tusk. Yes, it is. And often elephant bulls will do that. I mean, even elephant cows, but we do see it more in bulls per se, where they'll sort of even walk sometimes with their trunk sort of hooked over their tusk. I've actually seen before a habit of an elephant who was drinking water, that every time he would suck up in his trunk and then put his trunk into his mouth to deposit the water into the mouth, that he actually would hook his trunk sideways on the tusk. So it would hang, sort of the loop of the trunk would hang over the tusk while he put the tip into his mouth. Absolutely fascinating. And that was every single time the elephant would have a drink of water. It was just a habit that that particular individual had developed. Terry, it's a good question. You want to know what are the usual reasons for an elephant missing tusks. So the two sort of most common reasons, either firstly is genetics. So some elephants are tuskless. They just don't have the genes that develop tusks. I suppose in humans, some people have wisdom teeth, some people never had them. For example, myself, I never had wisdom teeth. They just were not given to me. I'm very grateful for that, actually. But, oh, this one's going to start mud wallowing or splashing itself with mud, which is fantastic. So it might be both. It might just be one, Terry, that the elephant just never grew. Second to that is that it can break off. It can be extremely painful for an elephant to lose a tusk, depending how far up the tusk the break is. So yeah, that is not an experience that an elephant enjoys. And that breaking can be from various things. So for bulls, it can be with fighting against each other. It can be accidental through breaking it. I've actually seen an elephant cow slip at a waterhole, and it was a concrete sort of trough that had been made for the animals, and it slipped there, and I saw her tusk actually shatter, which was sort of a surreal experience, but I have seen that happen. And then also feeding. So, if for whatever reason there is strain put on the tusk to a point where after many, many times, notches and being used in the same place over and over, it actually just wears away. And then it has a weakness, and let's say it tries to pull off a bit of bark or quite a big trunk of a tree or something, branch of a tree, then that tusk can break. So there can be a few different stories. I've also seen, even with tusks that have been broken quite high up, then that sort of whole cavity where the tusk goes there, you can see here on this particular elephant where it enters into the face, that can get infected. And if that happens, that tusk will eventually actually drop out, just like a infected tooth, which would be extremely painful, but it can actually lose its tusk through that. So there are quite a few options, Terry, but those are the general common reasons for an elephant being without a tusk, or without both tusks. And this elephant bull you've seen, he actually splashed himself with a bit of water and then came over to the spot where he's been throwing some dirt on himself. And that's done after wetting their bodies, because the dirt actually then sticks on and forms a more pasty type of mud that will last longer on their skin, keeping them cooler. Look at that. Very impressive. Dark Mane Lover, so wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for sending through your comment. You said, what a breath of fresh air to watch these elephants. It is, and I enjoy just taking the time to let you all just observe the behavior and feel like you really are sitting at a hide watching this Eddie and the others do their thing. And the warthog on the left has a very impressive tusks. You can see how they loop around out of the face. You can actually see on that warthog that the tusks themselves are made up of two parts. He's just turned his head now, but there's the top half, and then actually the bottom half of the tusk comes from the bottom jaw. Unlike elephants, which are one tusk that comes from one place out of the upper jaw. You can also see, if we have a chance to see that bottom tusk, it is like a little dagger that comes out of the warthog's mouth. And it just shows why they are such dangerous animals. Although we wouldn't consider them a predator species, they can definitely cause a lot of damage to a predator who's trying to hunt them with those tusks. Well, it's been wonderful to be here at Tembe and see the elephants and the warthogs and the impalas and all the action around. But I think, why don't we head back over to Kamfers Dam and just see what's happening there? We can always head back here a little bit later. Still very much the same scene as what we left earlier, but the Hartebeest have come back to relax on the shore. I'm not sure where the Gemsbok went off to, but they looked like they were passing through quite quickly. And it's amazing how the sun has changed this time of year. It's also why I love this time of year so much in the Bushveld. The sun moves slightly and it also gets a lot weaker, so you've got this sort of early sunset feeling from around, probably already from 3 p.m. You can feel the sun shift and there's a bit of a cool nip in the air. It's just wonderful that you know that it's time to enjoy your last sunset drive or safari and then come back and light a fire and whatever you enjoy in the evening to do around the fire. But it's just a wonderful atmosphere, I think, at this time of the year. Juliet, hello to you. Thanks for saying hi. You say you've just got in from the pouring rain. I'm not sure where you are, but I don't know if it's pouring with rain anywhere in South Africa at the moment. Juliet, let me know where you are from. You say welcome back. We enjoyed seeing you on the live safari. Do they ever clean out the green weed from these waterholes? I think particularly you were referring to what we saw at Tembe with the sort of green algae-ish plant that grows on top. So I think that first of all, Juliet, it depends on the reserve, their policies. It also depends if that is an alien species or not. I know like water hyacinth, for example, is an invader, and parks and reserves will try their best to remove it if possible. But also sometimes when it comes to algae blooms and things like that, it's very much natural and part of the system. And so what they need to wait for is more rain, for example. Juliet, thanks for letting me know. You say that you're in the south of England. That does sound appropriate, though. I won't lie to you that it is pouring with rain. Although I do think the seasons are changing now, and hopefully soon you'll have a little bit warmer weather coming your way. But enjoy the bank holiday today, and thanks for choosing Live at the Waterhole to join you on your bank holiday. Sure, very interesting question. You say, can flamingos go out of their depth? Do they swim? So it's actually not something that I think I've ever seen, but I do believe that they can swim at the top of the water if need be. But what they've adapted to be able to do, Shiv, is that they have much longer legs than other wading birds. And so that actually allows them to go far deeper into the water, therefore be able to get to food sources that other smaller birds, like, for example, I think that's a moorhen there, wouldn't be able to necessarily reach like they would. But if necessary, I do believe that they can go to a point where they can't touch the ground. Ooh, canine girl. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. You want to know if this is the herd that has the one that is leucistic, and I believe that was a leucistic blessbuck. So it wouldn't be part of the Hartebeest herd, if I remember correctly. I may be mistaken, but I remember it was one of the first times I saw antelopes at Kamfers Dam, and there was a leucistic blessbuck that was part of the group, which was very interesting. A bit of a mind boggler for a moment until I realized what we were looking at. But it was seen in this location, but it wouldn't be part of this herd of Hartebeest. So Darkmane Lover, if you're referring to the Hartebeest that we're looking now with regards to the direction of their horns, it actually is something that we even see with roan and sable antelope, the way their horns actually curve backwards and point backwards. But what they're able to do is actually when they bend their heads, those horns become like daggers pointing upwards. With wildebeest, they actually turn in ways, so they sort of face towards each other in the center of the head. With these hartebeest, they're pointing upwards. And with any antelope or species of animal that has horns on top, on top of their head, it's all about able to bend their head. And then get those horns to a certain direction, which then improves the effectiveness of the points. And as an animal with a particular type of horn, whose pointy side, let's put it that way, faces in different directions, they would know sort of how to use them best in order to successfully be able to fight for dominance or ward off predators. You can see the beautiful afternoon light coming through here now on these flamingos, the rest of which are just having a bit of a rest. Juliet, that's a good question. I think definitely Kamfers Dam gets deeper. So this is actually a very, very large dam that this particular area that we focus on and where the camera is set up is the shallower side, where lots of waders and different bird species and even the antelopes tend to congregate because it's sort of the naturally occurring shoreline of the dam. But this is a massive water body, and most definitely I think that it does get deeper as we go further and further to the right hand side. Hartebeest are moving again. I think one gets a fright and then they all react. Carol, how lovely to hear from you. Thanks for asking your question. You say you want to know from me, when was the first time that I went on a safari, and what's your favorite experience while growing up? Now, Carol, for us, I suppose South African kids growing up, we wouldn't necessarily refer to going on a safari. It's more just going to the bush or going to the park, and we would have a very different experience, I suppose, from a guest that I would now guide, or even guests that come to visit and stay at lodges. Whereas for us, growing up and going to the bush and seeing the animals was all about driving your own vehicle, staying in little chalets, or some might have been camping. Not so much camping for my parents, but more staying in the chalets. And yes, being able to go and experience nature in that way. But I'd say the first the trip I was going since I was about 2 years old to different reserves in the Eastern Cape where I'm from. Addo Elephant National Park as well as Mountain Zebra National Park being two of the most common. And then as we got older, the Kruger Park was also part of that, but it was a very far drive all the way from the Eastern Cape. It would take 2 days of full non-stop driving to get there, so that was something we only did every sort of 5 years or so. But as I became a teenager, I would sort of push more and more, and eventually it became every 2 years, and then it was every year, and then eventually I moved here. So I do love the Kruger Park very much so. And that's why I've chosen to sort of specialize on the Lowveld area. But yes, Carol, I think my favorite experience was, it's so difficult to choose one, but a lot of it is nostalgic, and just having family together in the park. I used to love the anticipation of waking up early and pulling my dad out of bed so that we could go at 5 a.m. out to see as much as we could, and never wanted to miss out. And then just in South Africa we would call them a braai, so a barbecue, making fires in the evening time and having a good dinner all together and playing games and things like that was all part of the bush experience for me. I don't remember any sort of absolutely amazing sightings other than when I saw my first leopard. That was very special. But just seeing the animals, I think, whether they were sleeping or whether they were just standing there, was always very, very special for me, Carol. Shannon, I suppose the answer to your question about what I would choose as a career if I wasn't in the wild, I am a qualified accountant, so I suppose that would be the alternative path that I almost went down before doing my guide training. So I suppose something to do with that, maybe still working for a conservation organization or something like that, but that would be the other career choice if I couldn't be living Well, so Canine Girl, with regards to predators in Kamfers Dam, I believe it is pretty low in terms they don't have things like lion prides or anything like that. But they do have some of the smaller predators. If I think about predators such as African wildcat, serval, caracal, possibly even leopards move around. I mean, there's just leopards everywhere. Probably not very high density, but who knows? Maybe tracks have been seen on the reserve before. Cheetahs and other animals, lovely to hear from you. You say lovely flamingos. Deborah, you say they are as beautiful as Africa seems to be. Gosh, what I would give to live in all this beauty. It is. We're very blessed in South Africa and Africa in general to live in some of the most diverse sort of areas that one can get. And I always think South Africa is just a country of such natural diversity, all the way from the east to the west. Yeah, Dark Main Lover, it really was wonderful to grow up with fun trips with cousins and my brothers, and just really associating the bush and the parks with family time and very special memories, and all piling into a combi, and everyone together in a vehicle and having a lot of fun spotting animals and making bush breakfasts, or in South Africa we'd call them a skottel, where you sort of fry your breakfast up on a big pan that heats from a big gas cylinder underneath, and you fry your eggs and your bacon, and you do eggs. My dad used to make toad in the holes, which is basically a slice of bread that you use a cup to take out the center, put the egg inside, and then cook it like that. And it was always watching the master at work with that. But lots of special memories and lots of good times, and particularly at this time of year from May to July, because of some of the public holidays and school holidays that fell in this time. Yet no, in this particular waterhole I don't think. There's definitely not any hippos and no crocs as far as I know. The very large river systems where those animals would come from, not quite close enough by to Kamfers Dam. It's actually very close to the town of Kimberley. I have actually seen sometimes when we zoom out you can see the distance, the city in the distance. So no hippos and crocs around here as far as I'm aware. I'm sure we would have heard the hippos by now if they were grunting here at Kamfers Dam. Alright, well, for the last little bit of the show, let's head over to Donyo Lodge and see what's happening over there. Oh, lovely, some Egyptian geese, and there is a stork there, everyone. Just trying to see when it brings out its... Oh no, sorry, not a stork. It's a goose. Oh, its head was tucked away and I didn't see how small its bill is. But that is a goose, a very large goose, spur-winged goose, black and white with the pink bill and pink legs. Now, Tao's also a place where we do see crocodiles, not so much hippos, but definitely crocodiles, and I haven't spotted it yet, but it usually is around in the area. Danny, you'd want to know what is my... Oh, there's some ostriches. Sorry, I just spotted them walking. They are male and female. You'd like to know what is my favorite part of Africa now. Danny, I hope one day that I'll be able to travel and go through more of our continent. But for now, my favorite part of Africa is a place that I went to very recently up in the northern Greater Kruger, and that is called the Pafuri, or the Makuleki concession, and it blew my mind, and I have fallen in love with that area of Africa. So unique, so different from anywhere else that I've ever seen, and I'm already excited to go back there and do some more birding. Lady Macbeth, you're absolutely right. There are so many beautiful places in South Africa, and still so many that I want to go and explore, but I'm doing my best to try and see as much as possible. And like I said, most recently I found my favorite place of South Africa so far, and of all the sort of southern African countries that I've been to. Definitely my favorite spot's up there in the north of the Kruger National Park. Dark Man Lover, you say, Amy, you're making me hungry with the breakfast you mentioned. Well, maybe you'll go make yourself some toad in the holes, bacon, baked beans, all the rest of it, Dark Man Lover. Maybe I'll make that for dinner, actually. Breakfast for dinner, that's quite a classic, isn't it? But there we go, they're the ostriches that I saw earlier. Lovely to see them. A male being on the right hand side with the black feathers, and then the female on the left who's a lot paler and grey in colour. Well, I can't believe we're coming to the end of today's show, everyone. It really has been fantastic to be back with you all and once again share some time at the Waterhole. Straight after this, we'll be on safari, which is the little sort of preview show before we head into the live drive at 3 p.m. Apologies everyone, I'm also getting used to the changes, but no on safari today actually, and no live drive either. But yes, no on safari, no live safari today. Like I said, sometimes in the bush we actually forget what day it is, but that's today. And then tomorrow actually there will be the afternoon live drive for the YouTube members, and morning safaris, live safaris for YouTube members and explorers. There you say, thanks for the awesome show. It was wonderful today, jam-packed with a lot of action, lots of animals, I think. And it was also lovely to hear from all of you again and say hello. And I look forward to being back with you all tomorrow, the same time, same place, for Live at the Waterhole. But from me and the team, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and have a wonderful evening or morning ahead, depending where you are in the world. And I look forward to being back with you again tomorrow.